This week, Shopify had their first major event of 2024, the Winter Editions event, where they announced over 100 new features. A lot of it is for Shopify Plus, though, and a lot of it is for developers. And in this video, I kind of want to ignore all of that and just focus on the 5 or 6 main features that stood out to me that would affect everybody, that would affect the average Shopify store. If you're new to the channel, my name's Ed. I'm a freelance Shopify developer. I've been working with Shopify for over 7 years now, and I've seen the platform transform, obviously, over that time. I make Shopify tutorials, so after you've watched this video, make sure to check out the rest of my channel. Now, the name of this particular editions was Foundations, meaning that they're focusing on the basics rather than pushing a lot of fancy new features. And that's always a good thing. However, I think there's still a lot to get excited about. And we're going to start with my personal favorite feature, which is theme blocks. I think theme blocks is going to be the biggest change to the Shopify theme editor and the whole website design part of Shopify ever since Shopify 2.0 was released more than 2 years ago now, and we've got sections everywhere. Well, now it's kind of like we have blocks everywhere, I would say. You're definitely going to want this update. It's not out just yet, it's only available to developers, but in this video I'll show you a sneak peek of how it works, and then I'll just share my opinions on how that's going to change things. And finally, I'll also do a recap of those 5 or so other things in Shopify Editions that really stood out to me. So let's get started. Alright, so theme blocks. What's the big deal? In Shopify, we already have something called blocks, right? We have our sections that we can drag around, and inside of sections, we have blocks that we can also drag around. This is just the regular Dawn theme, by the way. However, there are lots of limitations to this. First of all, we only have 2 layers. We can see this limitation demonstrated well in the slideshow section. So inside the slideshow, we have the blocks taken up by each image slide. And then these actual elements inside the slide, they're just in this fixed order. We can't drag these around, can we? We can't grab this and drag it to the top, or we can't add an extra subheading above the title. It would be nice if we could have a 3rd layer of blocks inside of here. Now, the other limitation is that every section has a specific type of block that it can add. In the image banner section, for example, here I can add a title, a button, and maybe some text as well for a caption. But what if I wanted to add an email sign up? Why can't I add the email sign up here as a block? I mean, that's a pretty common design for a website to have an email sign up in the hero here. But unfortunately, the image banner section does not have access to all the different blocks and types of components that are available inside of our Shopify store. And here's another good example. I know many of you want to add some kind of payment icons under the buy buttons here. We already have payment icons in the footer, so why can't this be a component or a block that we can simply add into the product information section just like any other block? Well, that's what this new update is all about. So there are these 2 main aspects of the new theme blocks update. The first is global blocks, and that is that any block can be used inside of any section across the entire site. Blocks no longer will be the child of a specific section. So for those of you that are more technical, there's going to be a blocks folder in the code, and that's where all the blocks for your theme are going to go. And then those blocks will be used inside of any section. And then the second thing is nested blocks. So we can have blocks inside of blocks, all the way up to 8 layers of depth. So finally, I can show you the developer preview of the new theme blocks. This is just Dawn theme right here, except with those new abilities. Let's start from the image banner at the top. Remember how I wanted to add an email sign up form in the hero image? I can now easily do that because when I click add block, I have access to all the blocks used throughout my entire store. I can add things like buttons, icons, payment icons. I can even add product cards anywhere I want. And here we have email form. So I'll drop that in and it's done. This is something that previously you would probably have to hire a developer to do. Scrolling further down, we have this very unique section layout. And if I had seen this a week ago, I would have thought that this is a particular type of section that comes with this theme. But this is just Dawn, and this particular section layout is just something that you can arrange quite easily yourself with these new abilities. If we take a look in the sidebar, it's comprised of these group blocks. So we now have these container block types, I would call them. There's column, group, and row, and you can use these groups to create unique layouts. So inside the group, we have simply a basic image block, and we have a product card. When we click into the group, we can select its width, and we can see quite easily that the section is built by creating a group with 25% width, then an image that is at 50% width, and then another group at 25% width. So this is very powerful because now it's not a problem at all to create any kind of grid-based layouts. Another interesting thing is that inside of these groups, we have content direction and content position. And this is very reminiscent of Flexbox if you're a developer, or if you're a designer, if you've used Figma, you might be used to auto layouts. So in this case, vertical is used to align both of these blocks vertically. And horizontal would be what you use if you want to have them side by side, but then obviously you need to have space in this section for them to be side by side. But look, my point is that everything's become very flexible, but it's also become more complicated. I think there's more of a learning curve to using the theme editor now, if they're actually going to keep it like this. As I said, this is a developer preview. They're looking for feedback from developers, and there might be a lot of changes before it's actually launched. I wonder if they will actually launch it with this many groups and columns and rows and things like that. And this is only 1, 2, 3, 4, like the 4 layers, right? And as I said before, there's 8 layers of depth that you can add here. I can add a group and then add a column inside of that. And like, you can completely break your layout and make it really ugly. This might be a little bit too much power. So at least that's my thoughts on the block nesting here. The global blocks, I really love that. I love that you can drop a product card absolutely anywhere that you want. That is already a game changer. You don't need to use the featured product or featured collection sections. Just add a product card anywhere across your site. As I mentioned earlier in this video, let's say that I want to add payment icons under the buy buttons. We have the payment icons block type. That's awesome. The same ones that are used in the footer here. That totally makes sense. We can build our store based on these components. So I love the global blocks, but I'm not sure about how they can make it so that it's easy to use the groups and the columns and you know, make a layout that actually works rather than breaking easily in the hands of someone who is maybe doing this for the first time. All right, I know what you're thinking. This looks pretty awesome, but when will it actually be published? Well, nobody knows, of course, but this is purely my guess. But based on the way that Shopify does things, they announce something at one editions and then they publish it in the next editions, which is every 6 months. So that would be July 2024, when we can first expect to maybe see this, if not later. I definitely think they need to simplify it a bit, and it won't be released in exactly the same form that I showed you today. But now you're thinking, Ed, why have you told us about all this if it's only like 6 months away? Well, there are a few key takeaways that I think you can use to plan the next 6 months for your store. So the first thing is that with so many changes coming up, and also with the pace at which Shopify has been publishing changes these past 2 years, I think it's become more important to stay on the latest version of your theme, to frequently update, I mean. It used to be that you didn't have to update that much, and you would work with the developer, do a lot of custom code changes to your theme, which directly conflicts with updating to a later theme version because it's difficult. You have to move all that code across as well. But now I think it's much more important to stay on the latest theme version so that you're not missing out on the latest features. For example, Dawn version 13 just came out and it has color swatches finally. Dawn version 12, the previous one, had color swatches for the color filters. The 13th version has color swatches on the product page. These are all quite important features that a lot of people want, and so you want to stay on the latest version. Now, the next thing is that I think with the growing flexibility and also the complexity of the Shopify theme editor, there might be new freelance opportunities if you're a designer or maybe a developer with an eye for aesthetics. I'm not talking about setting up new stores. I'm talking about on existing stores where a store owner has built things, but it could really benefit from a designer's touch, right? I think that there's going to be more Shopify designers, this type of job. That is at least until AI can design a Shopify site for you and design these sections and blocks itself, which I think isn't far off actually. It's maybe only 2 or 3 years away. All right, I think that's enough about theme blocks. Let's finally move on to the other updates in this Shopify Editions. All right, now next up, it isn't that much of a big deal, but Dawn version 13 is out, and it comes with color swatches on the product page. This is something that a lot of people have been waiting for. And it's not just Dawn, but of course all of the free themes, the Dawn-based themes, are now up to version 13. And if you missed Dawn version 12, that came with color swatches in the color filters. And I've actually already recorded a tutorial video on how to set up color filters, and that video will be coming out sometime in the next week. I did record that video before this Shopify Editions, and there have been some changes which makes it even easier than I show you in the video, but that video is still relevant. So should you update to Dawn version 13? Well, I'd say maybe wait a bit, because for these color swatches on the product page to work properly, you need access to category Metafields, which is one of the features in this Shopify Editions that has not been rolled out yet. It's coming in the next few weeks, and then we'll finally be able to set up color swatches on Dawn version 13. Now, let's talk about these product attributes or category Metafields, because this is really cool. And they've already covered this in a video very clearly, and I don't want to just repeat that video because where would be the value in that? But I'll summarize it briefly. So when you add a product now, you're going to select a category. And right now we have categories, but they don't do that much. They're kind of useful for maybe organizing collections and also for classification for Google Merchant Center, Google Shopping and things like that. But now when you create a product and you add a category, it's going to automatically generate some metafields for that product type. So if they are shorts, as in their example, then you're going to get things like activity, color, gender, and the material. Now, if it's a different type of product, maybe a tech product, then you're not going to see things like activity or material. Instead, it's going to automatically generate a different set of category metafields that are more relevant for a tech product. Now, where are all these category metafields going to be used? Well, first of all, you can use them yourself in the various blocks and sections on your theme. You can use them just like any other metafield. It's cool that it's going to be suggested to you rather than you having to come up with what these metafields should be, right? So it's just a way to show extra information about your product for your customer. They're also going to be used in filters. So you can set up filters based on all of these category metafields. On Dawn version 13, the color metafields are going to be used to power the color swatches. As before, it's also going to be used in different sales channels like Google Shopping and Meta. And I think that it could have SEO benefits as well if these metafields are output in structured data, for example. Check out my structured data video a couple of videos back if you're interested in that. And all of this is being rolled out in the next few weeks. So very soon we'll be able to play around with that, and I might make a follow-up video. Next up, we have a nice and simple one. The variant limit has been increased from 100 variants up to 2,000 variants. If you're not sure what I'm talking about here, your total number of variants is, for example, if you have 10 different colors of a t-shirt and you have 5 sizes, then you have 50 total variants, right? So 100 variants is actually not much at all. But now we can see on this example from Shopify, they have 15 colors, 8 sizes, in 5 different necklines for this t-shirt. Altogether, that's 600 variants, and it's not a problem anymore. You can have that all on one product. Unfortunately, there is one downside to this, and that's that it won't be rolled out very soon. So some of these changes, like for example, the product attributes, they're coming in the next few weeks, but the 2000 variant limit, it seems, will be rolled out throughout 2024. They're going to start with, I think, 10% of stores on Shopify, and then they gradually increase that number. But yeah, some of you will be waiting possibly up to a year. I think if you really need this feature though, you can get in touch with Shopify and request to be part of that early access group. All right, now here's something that I actually have early access to and I can show you. The speed score has been replaced by these 3 core web vitals. If I click into either one of these, we can see them in more detail on the web performance dashboard, which is completely new. The problem with the old speed score was that it was based on Google Lighthouse, which runs a simulation to test the speed of your store. And the scoring criteria wasn't very friendly to Shopify sites. So there were many websites that weren't that bad, they weren't that slow, but they would get a surprisingly low speed score. This led to a lot of people being very worried about this speed score, but still not knowing exactly how to fix it. Now, the web performance dashboard is much better. First of all, it's split into these 3 categories, which are much more useful than one single score. This is your actual loading speed, possibly the most important one. This is how soon your website becomes interactive, how soon it becomes clickable and usable. And this is how much the content jumps around or shifts when it's loading. So now if you have a problem with either of these, you can focus on that more specifically. The other benefit of this new system is that these scores are based on real user data. So every time someone visits your store, it actually records how fast the store loaded for them, for that person in that country, wherever they may be. So it gives you much more realistic data. I don't have a lot here because it's just a demo store. I don't have a real store to show you. But actually my favorite feature is this chart that shows you your loading speed over time. We can see a more complete example in Shopify's demo video. And what I love is that it records when you made changes to your store. So here we see November 3rd, they installed some apps and they made some changes in the editor. So if you notice your loading speed got worse after you made some changes, you can go back and fix those things. So overall, the web performance dashboard, I think it's going to be much more helpful. Next, I want to discuss Shopify Subscriptions. This was actually announced at the last Shopify Editions. It was in early access for 6 months, and finally it's been publicly released. Here's what it looks like. It's very simple. It allows a one-time purchase, or you can subscribe, and you can also set up different frequencies. So you can make it monthly, weekly, yearly, whatever you want, and with a different discount for each frequency. It's very easy to use. First of all, simply install the app. Next, inside of the app, you need to create a subscription plan and select which products it's going to apply to. Here I've created a subscription plan for these protein products, and I'm offering a 10% discount when someone subscribes to a monthly subscription. And finally, you need to enable it in your theme. So head over to App Embeds and make sure that the subscription widget JavaScript is turned on. And then you can go to a product page and add the subscription widget block through the Apps tab and drag it above the buy buttons. That's usually where you would place it. And finally, on the product page, you will also see this new section called Purchase Options. And if you want to make this product only available for subscription, so that there is no one-time purchase option, you can simply tick this checkbox which says only show this product with these purchase options. That will make it a subscription-only product. So it's just a very quick and easy, and most importantly, a free way to add subscriptions to your store. So go and check it out. Another feature that's quick to set up but also very useful is the new built-in customer privacy settings, especially if you're selling to Europe. I think you need a GDPR banner, and you might be using an app for that currently. Well, it's now built in. Activate a cookie banner. You can choose which regions it will be displayed for, and it will suggest regions depending on where you're shipping to. And this is what it looks like. It's very simple. You can do some simple customizations as well. You can have a dark theme, and you can also change the colors, and you can change the position as well. So it can be in the center. So if we save and then preview that, that's what it looks like. So again, customer privacy, not exactly a mind-blowing new feature, but foundations. And finally, let's finish on a fun new feature. Shopify is continuing to embrace AI with their Shopify Magic tools. At the last editions, we saw them launch Shopify Magic in the product descriptions. If you haven't tried this yet, I recommend playing around with it. With just a few keywords, you can generate a pretty good product description. And in this editions, they've announced image editing with AI. Most of their examples focus on changing the backgrounds of images or on removing a background, which personally I think this background removal feature, if it works well, is already a big deal. Because think about it, 5 years ago, we had to pay someone on Fiverr to remove backgrounds from images using Photoshop. Now there are online paid tools that can do it as well, but this is going to be built right into Shopify, and that's awesome. That will really speed up the workflow in many cases. And that's all for today, guys. Obviously, there's a lot that I didn't cover, so if you want me to go more in depth into anything or cover other aspects of Shopify Editions, then please let me know in the comments and I can make other videos. If you want to be notified when Shopify actually launches these things that I've talked about, some of them are coming in the next 3 weeks, some of them in a few months or at the next editions. But if you want to be notified, then make sure you subscribe to my newsletter because I'll send out an email when those things actually get published. And besides that, I also send out a monthly newsletter which summarizes all the other Shopify updates that happen each month just throughout the year. You'll find this on my website, ed.codes. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.